Hi there, Deacon John Wilson, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church, here to review for you in some short video segments, maybe about three parts, what we covered last weekend in the meetings to prepare our seniors to go away to college. A lot of you missed it, and that's too bad, but we'll try to recreate the sessions for you here, the important parts. And I hope you take them to heart, drop me an email and let me know if they're helping you. I'm going to do three. I'll do more if I get some indication that it's helpful. I think it is. And many of you are going to see this who know students that are going to go to college for their first year. This is going to be a series of three videos, hopefully one behind the others. There's loads of other stuff I need to show you also. But if you know a senior that's going away to college or who just graduated from high school, get them to see these videos. Share them with them, would you? And would you like and subscribe for me so we get a nice, wide, even wider bandwidth of people that see these, okay? So share it with people. Share it with your sons and daughters, those who are in the program, and share with friends at work. I think you'll find them very, very direct and helpful to students. Well, what I want to start off with is relationships, and particularly to be very real and very direct, like I was to the students. By the way, there is video of the entire session, but it's 2 hours and 12 minutes, I believe. A lot of you won't have the time to listen to it, or nor will your students. But these short videos will help. If you want to view the actual video, it was toward the end of the presentation that I covered this, but I'm going to cover it here for you now. I'm interested in relationships, and all these topics that I cover are things that have been a problem for my students. And today I'm going to cover sexual relationships, relationships with the opposite sex, if you will. I suppose it works if you're the same sex, if you happen to be, a gay attracted individual. But it was really geared toward heterosexual relationships while in college. All right, let's take a look at the view graph. So if you look at the description below, I'll have a link for you to the actual slides of the entire session. These are toward the end. Um, I don't know, maybe I'll just have these slides in there. Then subsequent ones, I'll have those slides. And I will link you to the video that I posted earlier if you want to see the entire session. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. All right, let's take a look at sexuality relationships and a little bit of gender. I don't think I'll get much to gender. We'll just do relationships today. I did gender the first week, and I don't have slides on those. 7 reasons to abstain from sex before marriage. 7 reasons to abstain from sex before marriage. And you'll notice in these reasons, well, I'll talk about it in a minute. First reason, I want to point out to you now, young people that are listening to this, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend now, and you're having sexual interactions or are going to, the odds are very high that that person will not be your spouse. So here you are considering or having a physical sexual relationship. I should stop and define sexual relationship because I'm going to be very clear about it. It includes oral sex, actual penetration, and all other forms of sexuality that induce a pleasurable reaction. I'll just leave it at that. But if you're in that kind of relationship or thinking about it, right, that person's probably not going to be your spouse. Isn't that interesting? They might be, but probably not. Let's go on. Pregnancy will highly alter your future. I don't know how many of you saw the Loki Marvel series, but there's a concept of a nexus event on that series, an event that could alter your life. Now, it doesn't mean that anybody should treat your baby, if you have one, as if there's some kind of virus, which is a hateful, sinful behavior that goes on in families. Even if Christians do it, it's wrong. But it will change your future, young lady. I'll get to young men in a minute, but it'll change your future. Years ago, I had a young lady who was at one of the CSUs, and she was a good student, and she got pregnant. And she told me Deacon, I'm gonna finish college. Don't worry, I really am gonna finish. And she didn't want to disappoint me or her family. But I went to visit her 2 weeks later, and she wasn't even on campus. She was sick every morning. She had a very rough early pregnancy, and then she never really finished college. And that was 10 or 15 years ago. Now she's having a good life as far as I know, and her baby, she loves her child, but it altered her future. It changed her future. Don't think you can just resume your future career just like, even if your parents take care of your baby, it's going to alter your future. I have other thoughts I could say, but pregnancy can highly alter your future. It does something to young men. It can alter young men's future too. Because if their parents make them take care of that baby, they probably can't finish school. And probably they should quit school if it's costing you your college. But again, I digress. STDs, including genital warts, herpes, et al., and others, can ruin your future relationship. I mean, you have some STDs, when you get those STDs, they're still laying dormant in you for life. So when you find someone you really love, you've got to do protected sex and only do it certain times in a month, and it could flare up again at any time. It could ruin your future relationships in your life. Premarital sex, I'll talk about young men in a minute. Remember, I am going to do that. Premarital sex creates women who are inalterably bonded to a young man who is not, in most cases, ready for commitment or responsibility of a family. And this is where I get into the concept of a soul tie. When women have sex with men, there's a bond that's developed. We used to call it in the old church a soul tie. And you have repeated sex with that man. He's getting more and more cynical about it, talk about it later, and you're developing more and more of a closeness. So when he pulls it away, it's devastating to you. I mean, that's devastating as getting off of any drug. Premarital sex creates women who are ultimately bonded to a young man who's not ready for commitment. Next, let's go on. Again, we're making 7 reasons to abstain from sex before marriage. Number 5, it creates cynicism in young ladies about later men who are better than even good men. So a good man comes along after some dirty old guy, young boy, more on that later, has sex with you, and maybe you're his first, and then he just leaves you hanging, as young men are oft to do, because they want variety in their sexual relations, which is another whole thing we'll get into later with them. Well, so when a good man comes along, he can't get your attention. You're cynical about every other man that could come along. And so God can't allow a man to find you. The Bible says a man who's found a good wife has found a good thing, or a good woman, or something like that. And the problem is you make yourself not findable at that point because you're not ready for the possibility of rejection. It teaches and reinforces 7 reasons to abstain from sex before marriage. It reinforces in young men, listen to this, that love begins with sex and that commitment is no longer necessary. Oh God, I just talked about that. This business of premarital sex needs to be understood. Having sex with someone while in high school, college can place young men and women in difficult situations that cost them educational time. See, I got a typo here. I'll fix it. And you get your copy. By the way, if you click below, I'll have the slides, like I said. Having sex with someone while in high school or college can place young men and women in difficult situations that cost them educational time. I talked about that earlier. Another way it happens is young ladies accusing young men of raping them when they regret having sex with them, or sexual assault. And it damages that young man's, because it used to be, and still is, I suppose, that the young man has to prove he didn't do it. And proving a negative is very hard. And during that period, he's excluded from class. It can cause the loss of educational time in young ladies too, when they get depressed when men move on. I see it all the time. I see it at least, or hear about it with a student, at least once a year, sometimes twice. This is why I'm covering this topic. I don't listen to me. I don't want these kinds of things, young person, to keep you from finishing college in 3.5 or 4 years. Well, why did God create sexuality? I mean, why even make me a sexual being at the age I'm at? Why do such a thing? God, why are you doing this? Let's explore. Well, first of all, it prepares you that developing sexual attraction and sexuality that you have is preparing you physically for your mate. That's why I talk about dating lately. You're looking for a mate. It's natural. It's a natural thing. But here comes this. Listen to me. Sex in marriage is the right way. It provides, listen, for the emotional security for children within marriage. That's where it's meant to be. I can remember when I was a young man back in ancient times, my parents had strained relations. They would argue and argue, and I could hear them arguing at night. I still hear it like it was yesterday. In many respects, it defined me. It defined who I am those days. I can remember they would fight so hard sometimes that my father would leave the house in a huff, and he wouldn't come back for 2 nights. I'd wait 1 night, 2 nights, sometimes a 3rd night. I'd be up late at night, listen to me, missing my dad. And he'd come to the door and open it up downstairs. And I could hear him because my bedroom was right above the front door. And I could hear him looking through the mail like it's yesterday. I can hear it right now in my ear. He would slowly begin to come up the steps. And you must understand, my parents' bedroom was right next to me. He would slowly come up those steps, 16 steps. I could hear him coming up slowly. Some nights he'd just come up and use the bathroom, go back downstairs. I think he'd cook a meal, and he would leave again because listen closely, because there's estrangement with my mom. He wasn't joined to her. He wasn't in the bedroom, wasn't there. Sexual relation in marriage provides for the emotional security of children. When he would get to the top of the steps, I could hear him checking on my sisters. He'd look in there and see if they're okay. Occasionally, one of them would say, "Hi, Dad," but not often because it's late at night. Then he would come down the hallway toward my room, and I would fake like I was asleep. And he would open that door and look in my room. Sometimes he'd come over and move the cover up on me. Then he'd turn around and walk out, and I would wonder, listen closely, will he make that left turn and be with my mom for the night? And when he would do that, it was a good day and a good week and a good month. He'd go into that room and close the door, and I would be so secure in my heart and so happy that my parents were no longer fighting. Sexual relation within marriage provides for the emotional security of children. It motivates men's survival and family protection instinct. It motivates a man to protect his wife and as his spiritual territory, hallelujah, not as possession or a slave. That's another whole statement. And his family protection instinct. Listen closely. It provides for periodic renewal of the bond within a marital context. Why did God create sexuality? If you become or are sexually active, you are adversely affected when you finally are married. My young people, please, no need to have sex before you're married. Let's hold off on that after we're married. What do you say? You really shouldn't be dating until your last year of college or so. Because dating is when you're interviewing for a spouse. Let me say this again. Dating is when you're interviewing for a spouse, not when you're trying to just be close and have somebody to be with. For whatever reason, you're doing that, even if it's not sexual. Here's some questions young ladies should ask guys that they're dating or going out with or spending time with. How does he act when he's angry? Good question. A person's true colors come out when they're angry. How does he treat his mom and his sisters? What does he think and say about them? He's constantly down on his mom and calling his sisters names and cursing about them. You're next. He's probably going to be an abusive young man or lean in that direction. What time does he want to call you up at night? Is he getting sexual with you? Is he too physical? Will he leave you if you stop? That's a clue. If you're afraid to terminate even just a physical relationship that's bordering on the things we talked about earlier, are you afraid he'll leave you if you stop? It takes a lot of faith in God to make that decision, young ladies. Is he at your life level or above? Is he some dude, bad boy that you're attracted to that's not even at your level? Remember, you're the queen. Nobody touches the queen. You are the queen. Not to make it seem like you think the guy's low life or guys can be low life, but they're just not at your level. There's women for that guy, just not you. Does he love God? Excuse me. Is it the same God that you love? Good question, huh? Think ahead. What does that mean if he's not worshiping the same God? This is a dead-end relationship. Is he clean living and clean looking? Or does he look like a bum? My Lord. But you bring him home to mom, but you bring him home to dad. Is he clean living and clean looking? Can you be proud of him? Whew. For young men, consider this. Young men, consider these things. The gratification of your sexual needs until marriage is the ultimate manhood. Can you ignore your hunger, your sexual hunger, until you're married? Or are you going to be like Esau and sell your birthright? Wimps and boys can't control themselves. A man can, and in doing so, saves young women and saves himself too. A young man with self-control is a rare thing indeed. Love and commitment are separate from sexual attraction. This is for young men to consider. Don't confuse the two. Emotionally damaged ladies cannot be rescued. Just wait for them. Wait and see what develops. I want men and women to watch for narcissistic traits. People that care only about themselves. It's a psychological condition that apparently can't be cured. What do they think about their fathers? Is a great question, young man, for you to answer. And these things should not be looked at to your last year of college, maybe second to the last, when you start interviewing and looking at and dating young ladies. Here's a romantic timeline for you. Look at the blue up here. In your senior year of high school, sorry, this is pushed down. In your senior year of college, and then you're set in your career. In your senior year in high school, you start interviewing and abstinence, then dating and abstinence. Interviewing is when you talk to young men. Dating is dating. Going out on a date because you're looking for a spouse. And then we have marriage, and I added lots of children. I'm just going to say children. I do hope you want to have a family. A lot of you don't, because right now, when I look at TikTok and other places, parenthood is just not something I hear a lot of that's popular on TikTok. But that's why you're here. to continue the species. One reason you're here naturally, anyway. Other side of serving God. You have these internet relationships. Be very careful about visits out of town to guys, ladies, and guys and guys also to ladies. See your friends as chaperones. They should be with you. If someone comes to town, you should bring a friend. Any of these things I'm telling you have become problems in the past. Ladies, do not travel to meet guys. No need to do that. Okay? Well, those are some great tips for you to consider. And I hope you take those to heart, because I want you to finish college. I want you to become a productive member of society. I don't want you having to get in bad relationships and slow down your graduation from college and starting your life. God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.